This is The Future of Money, a podcast where we hope to educate and get educated about the new world of blockchain and digital money. And my name is Eric Den Boer, and I will be your host. Hi, and welcome back again to another episode of Blockchain and the Future of Money. And like last time, we're going to continue our journey in AIs. This time, though, we are going to talk about AI and integration. But before we start, please introduce yourself. Start with Lee.
My name's Lee Wood. I'm KUAF's General Manager.
And Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill Akins, Professor of Marketing at the University of Arkansas.
So, okay, where do we start? Let's start at home.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
AI at home. So, we all know that AI is already integrated in your home. You might not just think about that, but I was thinking Alexa. What do you guys feel about this? Having AIs at home?
Alexa, well, just from, I have I think a particular perspective on it being in media and radio. Alexa is this great opportunity for people who don't have radios, because people don't buy radios anymore, really, and you can't find a radio. You have to go online and specifically look for a radio. But Alexa is a great opportunity to just say, play KUAF. I'll do a shameless plug. But you tell it to play it, and it comes on, right? And you can tell it to play podcasts. So that's honestly the best function that I've seen, or that in my experience of Alexa, or my kids getting to tell it to play songs and stuff.
And it's a personal assistant.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, with AI, there was this inflection point that happened last fall of ChatGPT coming along, but we've been using AI for years and years and years with this. This is something that's not necessarily new. Mm-hmm. But it's so personal when you look at these personal devices at home that they get smarter the more you feed into it, and especially with language. And I think about personalization. Yeah, and the role personalization has.
No, I agree. Talking about Alexa, I saw this video of this kid. He was sitting and doing his homework, and it was like, Alexa, how much is 8 plus 8? Did you see that?
No, but really it feels like my real life.
Yeah, exactly. But we talk about Alexa and Siri a lot. But the thing is, if you think about your Roomba, for instance, technically that is an AI too, right?
It's a robot. It learns the path of your house.
Your house, and
it learns the path. Well, and there's so many commercial aspects of that are being brought into the home, because you actually have these really smart bots in retail, right, that are going up and down the aisles. When you think about like in-store delivery and grocery delivery and that. Think about being able to now bring that same type of power and that same type of learning home, so that, hey, it's not just cleaning your home, but it's actually, it's looking at the inventory within your cupboard, and it's knowing the right time to order things. I think that's going to be one of the real exciting parts of it. And I think there's so much, the line gets blurred between Internet of Things and having smart devices and AI. And so with AI, it kind of takes your smart devices to the next level. So now you can link, if you're a retailer, you can now be linked into the home much more easily. So it's like, hey, I'm at home. I'm at this point of inspiration. I'm looking to make my grandmother's chicken parmesan recipe. And I link back to my smart device and I say, hey, Alexa, add my grandmother's chicken parmesan ingredients to my shopping cart, and then have it delivered. Yeah. And as a part of that. Or I'm a family of 4, now change the recipe so that it's vegan. Or create that recipe. I've got a child with peanut allergies. Make sure I've got the right ingredients at my house to go do it. So it's just, it's now this blurring of the line between Internet of Things and the smart thinking behind it all, right?
Yeah, we actually discussed this once before. Remember we were talking about the smart refrigerator? Mm-hmm. That, you put in and you can feel that, hey, I only have half a gallon.
Your milk is going low. Yes.
Remember? So that is part of the AI system. I mean, you're right. The Internet of Things and AI is starting to blur. Maybe the Internet of Things is like, oh yeah, this is the one part of the whole scheme of AI, right?
Well, I spent a lot of time talking about this, and I think, again, not just Internet of Things blurring with that, but now you've got this blurred line between, is it automation, is it machine learning, is it AI? And so how do you explain that to just kind of the masses? And, I always use like weather data, right, as a part of that. And when you say, weather data from an automation standpoint, that was kind of the phase we were at up to maybe about 10 years ago, which is just, hey, I'm going to take all my temperatures, I'm going to organize them in a normalized table, right? That's where the Farmer's Almanac came from. It's just, I'm organizing, I'm doing nothing predictive. And machine learning kind of introduced the idea of, okay, so now let's actually do the models. So when we have really difficult weather here in the Midwest and we start to see this is potential tornadoes, machine learning is saying, oh, we're taking the pattern and we're potentially making a prediction on it. And then AI is blending the whole different world with it. So let's take retail. Let's go back to that and say, so now if you're Kroger, Walmart, Harps, and I'm looking at this saying, what happens when there's a 1 degree temperature change on orange juice sales? On soup sales to go do that, and they're doing that. I mean, this is real things happening today, and so that's it's just
So all of these things, we're going from the smart refrigerator to the whole retail area, and this landscape is just all going together in one. One thing I have to say though, please don't take away the Farmer's Almanac. I love the Farmer's Almanac. To me, it's like I love just reading it because I love planting and growing. Yeah. But I do think
that's the first AI. That's right. I think it goes back to no. I'm saying. I think that's the first attempt at predictive modeling in AI. So I think
and it's pretty right on.
It'll always have a space.
No, both of you are against me.
I'm saying the Farmer's Almanac. Surprisingly, I mean, I think that it probably is going to skew now because of climate change, but it has been pretty right on, which is really surprising.
That's the thing that amazes me. I'm going to go off track a little bit here, though, but Farmer's Almanac has been pretty accurate all the time, right? But still, we can't really predict weather 100%, right? And because there's so many variables in there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the things that I was thinking about AIs is like, you're talking about they getting sentinels and all that kind of stuff and thinking about himself. There are so many variables when you come to a human being. Will an AI ever become a human being? I don't think so. Anyway, another episode. We will continue this.
That's right.
So,
well, can I?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the integration with the home, in particular, it makes me. I don't want to gender this necessarily, but I'm thinking about in the 50s, this whole revolution of this is all this technology you put in your home that helps the wife. That helps the woman in the house be able to get all of these things done. And the things you guys are mentioning, I'm like, that would make my life easier. That would make my life easier. I hope that at some point that's how it gets packaged and maybe marketed, is that, the people who are tending to the household that are keeping things running and keeping the groceries and keeping it clean and all that. This is technology that could truly, really help those people.
Family scheduling, family management. I think that was the whole idea of these smart devices was to have it because it's the center of the home. I mean, one of the startups I worked for, we had a kitchen in the middle of the office because we knew that was the gathering point. That was the gathering place. And so what better spot than to have AI be in the kitchen from an integration standpoint, because it's the heart of the house, it's the nucleus of the house. As you look at that, and of course it'll extend out into other areas. I mean, you can see smart sensors all over the house as far as where you're low on inventory, so that I can I can hit it in one button.
It'd be awesome to say, I don't want to go above this much usage on my electric bill this month. So they can maybe even taking a sensor and saying, let's turn these lights off. Let's turn this off.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I did a note on that in my papers here about, the energy optimization is the word, right?
Yeah.
That how can you save energy? But we're not just talking about the home. AI, for instance, will help us in, a truck driver that is out there driving trucks, right?
Right.
What is the big the cost saving of this route, or if I go on this speed, or all that kind of stuff? I think AI is going to be really helpful there.
Yeah, it will revolutionize the supply chain and truly how we get products from A to B, because you'll have such transparency on all these different nodes deep on what that looks like. I mean, there are already retailers today, who are utilizing the supply chain for that, and to give transparency back to its individual shoppers on where my sourcing, I guess, would be the best way to say that. Yeah.
Well, and I'm wondering, since we've really encountered what it looks like, how it affects us when there are these gaps in the supply chain, that maybe AI helps with being able to pivot and quickly being able to make changes. That's not going to be available. Okay, where can we look? Where else is this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dealing with those gaps a little bit better.
And the idea of substitution. I can absolutely see that, because you're looking at it as kind of one of the precursors to the AI models we're seeing today. There was an app called IFTT, and it's still out there. It was If This Then That. It was the first app that was designed to link.
What do you call it again?
If IFTT. If this, then that.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
it was designed to say,
yeah.
How do I take disparate apps and put them together on my phone without having to be a coder? And so in the early days, the way that I did this is so you could say, if I'm within 10 feet of a Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts, then text my personal trainer, text my wife, right? Like align accountability for that, and it worked, and I'm not a coder. I'm not a coder.
Totally opposite of what I thought you were going to say, by the way.
But what it was, if I'm within that, but to your point of even going back to the home of being able to put in that smart logic of saying, if salmon falls below $3 a pound, add it to my shopping list.
That's right.
And link it to fitness. If I run 10 miles this week, then add Oreos to my shopping cart, like about that. So again, like getting down to that whole personalization piece, I think is going to be interesting.
I'm immediately thinking of my husband, who would be like, if this album drops below this price,
there you go.
On Discogs, send me, or just put it in my cart.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, well,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now your brain's
mind blown.
Well, I think it's good. Well, I mean, I think it's, when you look at it up until AI, like just from a consumer standpoint, you have all these companies that are trying to market to you to obviously buy their products. And so it was about, hey, how do I get you to buy something? And now it's about, how do I get on your list? Because I think about it like during COVID, when we were in lockdown. I was working at Walmart at the time, and we took grocery delivery and grocery pickup. I mean, it accelerated it to 5 years, where they thought it was going to be in a matter of months, because it was being able to get to those choices quickly and about that. But to your point about substitutions, now it's that the smarter that it gets, it's okay. Yes, I'm out of stock on item X. How do I substitute that in? Or again, go back to my grandmother's pasta recipe to go do that. How do I substitute out for items that I've got a member of my family who's lactose intolerant, or
I was thinking about
like
that because you mentioned peanut allergies. That you can not only just add the things that you want, but you can also exclude the things. You can say, "Hey, you know what? My son is peanut allergies.
Yeah.
Anything with peanuts, exclude that. Look through the whatever." And it could be sometimes you buy things and you didn't even know that it had peanuts.
Well, take it one step further. I mean, especially being a parent of a child with peanut allergies, we have to look at the ingredients on every package, on every single thing within retail. So, imagine being able to put almost a heat map on front of that. I hold my phone up like I'm taking a picture, but I actually get the products color-coded and highlighted that are either eligible, to your point, or you have a skull and crossbones right around the ones that I actually can't go and exclude on that. And so
that's really
I mean, lots of exciting things on that front.
Remember we talked about last time, we were talking about the AIs, personal AIs, like in your glasses, and you go into Walmart and the AI in your glasses, and you look through. You go from aisle to aisle, and you've already told them that anything with peanuts is out, right? And you go in there and you will get those no peanuts, or
that's right.
It will already there tell you, which is, and that again, we're coming back to the where is AI integrated into your home, and these are exactly those things. We were trying to say, okay, where do we have AI in a home, and where do we have it like in the retail business? But it's getting all so integrated to each other that the home and the retail is almost walking hand in hand.
And it's like the early days of digital. It's where you start to see efficiencies in one industry, that can start to transform out into other areas. So I mean, I think of areas of finance, and so I think again, like merging the retail and financial side. there's a reason why when you go to a Dollar General or Dollar Tree, all the prices are whole numbers because of you've got a very budget conscious shopper, probably lower on the education spectrum from a demographic that doesn't want to be able to do the math in their heads of $3.99 plus $4.99. They're always whole numbers, and so that's why everything's at $4 versus $3. And so take AI into the equation and to say I'm a single parent. Let's say I have a budget of $75, but I need to be able to get 8 meals out of that over the next week. So budget out for me and smartly be able to create that healthy recipe choices for me or options from that. You could really see days where that happens.
And I can tell. So I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I'm actually Swedish, and in Sweden,
I don't think you have. Isn't that weird? We just started and went. We never explained. Okay.
Yeah, for the first time in this podcast, yes, I am Swedish. Anyway, in Sweden, when you go and shopping, if it says like $9.99, it is $9.99. It's not when you come to the cash register and they add taxes. No, that is the price because the taxes and everything is already included.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you would have an exact price right there, and it makes it so much easier.
But then when there's an expendable product, of being able to say, okay, I have a budget of $75, but my cart is currently at $84. So it's like, what can you substitute out for the expendable items that can get me below that 75 threshold? And that's where it could get interesting, and especially in the world I teach marketing.
Yeah.
And being able to say, well, if you switch to this razor versus the one that you currently have into that, you're not only going to save on price, but now we're going to switch you over. And so the idea of creating loyalty is huge in the AI space.
I was thinking about that. I mean, getting on the list is that idea of like, we don't want you to just make one purchase. We want to be the place where you make these purchases over and over and over again, because we know that they're purchases you're going to make over and over and over again.
That's right.
It's similar to something that we do in fundraising, right? We want to get you on as a monthly donor, right? We want to know that you were going to give us continuous. So I understand completely the value in that. My thing is that I would hope there's so much potential here. Of course, it is tied to consumerism, and this is tied to retail, but I think there's real potential to make people's lives easier. That's the thing.
That's right.
Like, can we just, because folks are working. I mean, even I think about being in the dollar store, you probably have 45 minutes to do this before you have to go get your kids at school. So it's not just about doing the math or any of that stuff. It's like, how can we get this done?
That's right.
And this does really seem like it could help.
Well, map the shopping journey and what that looks like. But I think, I mean, you look at the headlines today, and there's the negativity, right, on AI, and it's going to take jobs, and there's security, and yes, we have to be very intelligent. We have to understand the risks that are associated with it. But it's not about replace. I think you make a great point. I think it's about augmenting, and it's about coming alongside to make that better. I mean, from an academic standpoint, I look at this within my classes where I'm saying, let's utilize these tools as the starting point, not the end point.
Right.
And I think that's the problems in academia, is that it's like it's becoming the end point of students are writing their papers through it, right? But it's think of this as it's a whiteboarding brainstorm session, and this tool, it has a seat at the table, and it's helping me kind of brainstorm out the first things, and then now I can fill in with my knowledge gap on that. But it gives me a great starting point.
Yes.
Well, talking about there seems to be right now is like, let's push the fear of AI. Yeah. You know, we got all of these big companies, Elon Musk, et cetera, saying that we need to put this on hold and yada, yada, yada. One of the things is I read a lot about neuroscience, so I know a little bit about that. And our neurons, they trigger one 1/10,000th of a second. That's how quick it is. Today, there's no computers doing that. So, I mean, the technology moves forward. Yes, it is. But also the training of the AIs is going to move forward. I do agree that we need to train the AIs a little bit more on, we're getting a little bit on ethics here, but train them on more diversities and stuff like that. But I think that I think as time goes and we will get more AIs, there might be an AI out there that doesn't do anything else but is following National Geographic, Curiosity Streaming, all of these nature programs and whatnot, right? And then there will be another AI that doesn't do anything else but studies religions and all that kind of stuff. And so you will have all of these that then starts communicating with each other. I think the fear of AI is maybe a little bit too pushed, in my opinion. I think we need to just look at the good side of AI.
Well, I think tool is the word, right? It's a tool. I think that's the thing, and you heard me say this all over and over again. But it's a tool, and to understand that your brain is also a tool that is superior to this tool right now. So, use it as a tool to gather information. Say you're writing a research paper, it can probably do great research for you, and then use that to then make what you're doing. You don't give up your own brain for artificial intelligence, I think is the thing. It's use it as a tool and then let your brain, which is still superior at this point, do that work.
I literally said that in class yesterday morning where I said, let's utilize this tool. And we actually did an exercise where we actually utilized the tool in the class, and we saw what you could get from Bard on Google versus what you could get from the Bing search engine versus ChatGPT. But I said, don't check your brain at the door. For what that looks like. And and I think that's be aware of the capabilities and what it can do, and be aware of the risks. Right, and that's why you're seeing companies saying, don't go in and ask questions on these publicly tools that actually you're putting secure information from your company on that. So it's like, be smart about it, right? As far as how that goes. But
So I think if the narrative, I agree with you. I don't love that the narrative is, this is something that's scary for us. I would rather us be able to say, how can we use this as a tool to solve some of the many, many problems that we have in our world
and ask smart questions. And that's what I spent a lot of time talking to my students about. It's that it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's those who know how to ask the right questions and utilize it well as an augmented tool. To your point, that's what's going to take.
I want to add to this from an interview that I was watching, and the guy in there said his name is Max Tegmark, very intelligent guy, also Swedish, by the way. I just remember now. He said something. It's not the AI per se that we should be afraid of. It's the bad people that are going to use AI for the nefarious things, right? So let's say that we have a super, super smart AI, and then you have a guy like Putin running it. That is a bad thing. So be afraid of the people that could utilize it for bad things, not the AI itself. And like you said, it's like a tool. I sometimes hear this argument about, well, it's not the gun, it is the person behind the gun. And technically, it's right. I mean, I know I'm touching on something really sensitive, but I want to do those comparisons because it is true.
Well, I mean, I think that it's kind of similar. We kind of got into this in the ethics episode about standards. That's why standards are really important, right?
Yes.
Because it is, and we were having these conversations when we were just talking about crypto at the very beginning. Crypto itself is not inherently good or bad. It's how people use it. It's how it is dealt with. It's how it's presented to people. So it's always the same. But I do think my fear is that we really lose that part of the narrative that we're in control. Like, we're creating it. We can use it. We can make the decisions of how to use it. We can set the standards to keep it from being used for nefarious reasons as much as we can. Like, we humans are the ones that are doing this. So let's not lose sight of that.
And that's where transparency is really going to have to come into play. And I know that's the struggle in the medical community right now. You mentioned medical on that, and that's how do you avoid bias coming into these AI models, which has tremendous potential, to do such good, for those who suffer with ailments and link it into fitness. But again, it's garbage in, garbage out. It has to be trained well. And if you're trained for gender bias, if you're trained towards a racial bias or even economic bias, that it may not suggest a treatment if it knows that you can't afford it. But today, the economic factor doesn't come into play on some experimental procedures, and it's a part of it. And so that's I think that's the real challenge that those in medical right now are really facing.
We got a little bit away from the home and retail. No, go ahead and ask.
No, I didn't have. I mean, the medical field really does seem like a place where this could just revolutionize things, and I hope. But again, it's that idea of how can we use this technology to help us solve problems or get to the place we want to be. I'm glad you're saying that to your students, because I do think that I certainly don't want younger people to grow up thinking, oh, well, this will just do it for me. Like, that's not where we need to be. We need to be thinking about this differently.
Well, that also depends on the culture. I mean, if you're saying, a lot of times when we talk about AI and cryptocurrencies or whatever it is, I go back to, we always talk and we look at the American view or the European view.
Right.
Well, what about India or Africa or, how are they going to be interacting with AI? For them, I think we were talking about climate. I think climate is going to be something AI use in climate in Africa for agriculture and stuff like that is going to be way much more useful than them having an Alexa saying, "Hey, you're out of milk."
Oh,
right?
Well, because you're testing enzyme levels within soil.
Oh, yes.
Right. You're looking at that. You're looking at how do we harness the energy of ocean waves to actually to fund the grid. I mean, when you talk about climate change and AI, those really go hand in hand on so many fronts, strictly because if you think that blockchain took a lot of energy to run, AI, I forget the stat, it's 100 times more energy that it will take to actually run the tools. Just OpenAI, I saw the stat the other day, it's $700,000 a day for the compute power that it's taking to run the cloud, behind that. So, so obviously we're trying to figure out more efficient ways to go out to get.
But on the other hand, AI is going to help us figure out a way to.
That's right.
So right,
we're building a plane as we're flying it. That's
absolutely.
Right. Which is okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, awesome. Well, we talked about AI. I want to go back into retail a little bit. Sure. I wanted to talk about it, but we got into all this other thing. But retail, how would it really help us in the retail area? Not just optimizing it, but finding things.
Yeah, personalization is absolutely going to be critical. I think it's not just personalization of my likes and preferences, but personalization as far as where I'm currently at, and what stage of life I'm standing in front of the cough cold section, and I'm trying to figure out do I have a cold or do I have allergies? And that's where you start to get blurred line with medical and telehealth and those types of things. But I absolutely would say personalization and then customer service.
Oh yes.
Being able to avoid out of stocks.
Yes.
You almost have to think of retail stores today. Having a hole in the shelf is absolutely detrimental to those categories, because once that customer switches, it's really tough to get them back as a part of that. And
I didn't think about that, but you're absolutely right. I've done that so many times.
Yeah, you'll switch. Well, and then go back to personalization, and you look at this and say, who is the greatest influencer on what you purchase? A lot of the time, it's your inner circle or it's family and friends. I mean, I remember when I had my first son. I mean, literally, my wife bought everything her older sister bought. For their baby. I mean, if she had created, if my sister-in-law had created a list, my wife would have gone in and literally said, "Purchase one of each," because she trusts her sister more than anything else, and so that brand loyalty was absolutely enormous. But think of what AI can do to start to now tie in your inner circle's personal preferences. So I'm standing in front of the wine aisle and I'm looking at Chilean wine. Well, I know that Eric drinks X, Y, or Z. I'm going to trust you and your judgment versus anything else that a supplier is going to tell me.
Okay, so now this is when I get to throw the wrench and everything. One thing I fear that I think is going away more and more is being surprised. Having surprising experiences.
An impulse,
where you are exposed to something that you were not aware of, and now it is one of your new favorite things. And the narrower and more optimized and personalized we get, we narrow those experiences or the opportunity for those experiences.
Well, that's AI could maybe change that.
So that's what I want, a randomizer. I want to make
because
sure
the
that there's
AI might go in and say,
there.
okay, she always drinks this kind of milk, but they just now in another store has a different kind of milk or whatever it is, candy or whatever, right? And then it says, hey, but did you know that this store has this? Maybe we should try that.
Oh,
that's what
I'll take it a step
say.
further because, I mean, you look at the entire, like the retail club model is built off of that. They call it, Sam's Club, Costco, they call it the treasure hunt. It was like that's a big part of club because, yes, I'm going to go buy in bulk, but how many times have you ever gone in and just bought the one piece, right? I mean, that's why there's sampling. That's why there's all these other things. But I could see AI coming into play. I guess the word I'll use will be it's the smarter it knows your affinities, not necessarily the product, but it knows you have an affinity towards these type of beauty brands, cosmetics, or electronics.
Yeah.
And it also knows that, I purchase big ticket electronics every January after tax refund season, and so it will know not just the affinities of me towards consumer electronics, but it knows when. I mean, let's go back to marketing, right? Product, price, place, promotion are the 4 P's of marketing.
I'm going to throw another thing in there. You guys know that metaverse is my thing, so that's my space that I work in. But imagine now you go into metaverse. Now, not only are you in Arkansas, you are wherever in the world. You might be on another planet. In a concert, a Snoop Dogg concert on March, and someone is promoting this new thing from India, and you go, hey, yeah, cool, I want to try that.
That's awesome.
I mean, so AI is really going to revolutionize all that.
I think affinity, and access.
Access,
right. Yeah, I think that's exactly where you're going with that. So, Natalie, that's a great point.
That's exciting. That's the only thing is that I do think that we just don't have, again, I'm radio. I have a kind of a starting point there. And radio used to be great because you would never know about these songs. Think about then versus now. Like, the idea that you
artists?
sit and listen.
I don't think radio is going to go away.
It's not.
Because the thing is, I'm going back to metaverse again, but I do know that our kids are running around in the metaverse or they're going in to play a game or whatever it is. I'm going to do this example. And what they do is they connect into their favorite radio station while they are running around and playing a game.
Yeah.
And then in this radio station, there's all kind of, because there's a generation in gaming that we are completely overseeing, and that is retired people. And guess what they are listening to? And it's funny because they're out there playing Fortnite, listening to NPR, right? Who knew?
Love it.
Right?
It's an untapped market.
That's a thing we never would have thought.
Well, it is, and it's that. Yes. So we don't really we don't sunset things out very often, and we just add, right?
Yes.
So,
right.
But and I give radio as an example because it was just, seriously, just a sampler. Here's this. You're going to hear a lot of the same songs over and over again, but you would hear things that you would never have anticipated or you didn't know about, and that especially like the algorithms and things, the more we narrow and an algorithm really knows what we like, we got to make sure there's an open door somewhere for new stuff to come in. That's all.
Yeah, well, and I think that's where like the affinity comes into play. So think about curated playlist, curated watch list on content. It's overwhelming, right? The amount of content we have. But go back to fitness and to say, when I run, I've got 2 or 3 songs that I try to keep them towards the end because they're an exact beat and I want to run exactly to that. And so AI has the intelligence now to go in and analyze, say, oh, actually that same beat pattern, find me 15 other songs that have the same exact beats per minute, right? As a part of that to be able to isolate.
So I'm hoping in the future that we're talking about AI like. There's one AI in the whole world. I'm hoping that is completely wrong. I'm hoping there's going to be so many different kind of AIs, and they might communicate with each other the same way we do. Yeah. Through you, I met him, and through him, I met and we learned something new, or I brought this one in as a friend, or whatever. And maybe the AIs are going to be out there going, oh, yeah, this one is in agriculture. I'm actually in the weather business, so let's talk a little, and then we get all of that like in one big umbrella kind of deal. I really hope that we stop looking and saying AI is one thing.
That's a good point.
Let's call them, give them names.
Well,
Alice and Bob and Sean and whatever, right?
The more diverse they can be to reflect, I think, the diversity of actual human culture, the better off we'll be.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And also, if we do that, I think we're going to get that diversity that you were mentioning before. We really need that. You know, and oh man, I really hope that I want to see an AI being a black woman and having really strong opinions about something and integrating that in the rest of the AI world just because they can.
Yeah, and they should listen to that.
Yeah, and they should. Yeah, absolutely.
They should, yes.
Yeah, you know,
absolutely.
Absolutely. I know. I want to round it. I mean, we can talk forever about this, and that's why I love AI. I mean, you can just continue talking. One thing I remember you were talking about was air conditions.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So
tell us about that.
So I go back. I think we're all old enough here at the table to remember the early days of the internet. You know, and I think that it was very much a strategy of I went online, right? I actually had to physically log on, dial up, go in as a part of it. And I remember Bill Gates made this prediction in his book, The Road Ahead, and it was like 1997, 1998, where he said there's going to be a day where there's an invisible line between the internet and your desktop. It will be this invisible experience. And so going back to kind of air conditioning is, I think here's my prop.
Oh, you brought that with you.
I brought
That's
it.
awesome.
Well, so Time Magazine. They have GPT on the cover here, but they did it was a cover story probably about a year and a half ago, and it was the top top innovations of the last 100 years. And it was really interesting what was the number one, because you would think, it was a computer, it was the internet, it was penicillin, it was the phone, it was the car, vehicle. And the number one innovation technology pick of the last 100 years from Time was air conditioning, because they looked at it and they said, if you did not have air conditioning, twofold. One, you could have never settled the Southwest and the Southeast. You couldn't have an office building in Phoenix. You couldn't have an office building in Atlanta. And growing up in Atlanta, I absolutely understand that and realize the value of air conditioning. But they said, but it's this, but it's the powering force behind cloud, behind AI. Everything in server rooms would melt without air conditioning. So you have to have this invisible technology underneath it. And so now that this baseline is established, they took it further to say, the really invasive technologies that are going to be the most impactful on us long term are going to really be the ones that are invisible. And just like with air conditioning, like, you don't really pay attention when it's working as it should, but you really pay attention when it doesn't work, right? And so especially in those parts of the world. So when I think of AI, it was really kind of this epiphany moment for me. I'm like, oh yeah, as we think of AI, right now, just like the early days of the internet, I am going to this prompt. I'm going to this tool. I am choosing to engage with AI, right, as a part of it. But there will be a day, just like Bill Gates predicted, that there's this invisible line, and it's already almost invisible in search engines, but it will be invisible in the home, in the kitchen, in all these areas that we're not really going to pay attention when it's working as it should. But when bias comes into play, when all these negative things are coming into play, when I feel like I can't trust a certain company with my data because you've taken my information and you've used it against me or tried to sell me something with it. So when trust is gone, then AI is not going to be working the way that it should. But truly, as I think of the future in this space, it's visible, but it's invisible, right? And that it just becomes so embedded that it's an everyday part of life. But you got to have trust. Yeah, you have to have transparency, and you've got to have that visibility.
I think on that note, we're going to end. And thank you guys for coming and joining us. We will continue this discussion. I can guarantee you that. So until next time, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.